Okay, it's going now. Y'all hear me? Alright. So, this is, the second chapter. The broadcast ended, so I just started it back up again. This is like a little bit into the second chapter. Okay. Cell-phone batteries are the obvious choice for your robot, providing long-lived power for just the right level of for small motors. It looks like these are mostly made in China, so they're cheap as well. You use several in the design, so the head and limbs are each powered by a separate battery, plus grays. You'll need a lot of motors to be able to power your full robot. In addition to the motors, Ree needs when Ree walks, and the motors to power her humanoid hands. Ree also needs motors for moving her head and eyes. But after speccing out the power available to you, you can still splurge by adding extra motors in one place. What will it be? Extra degrees of freedom in the face for realistic facial expressions, and Artemis's humanoid hands for fine manipulation. I would prefer us to save the power for Artemis's mind. Yeah. My cat. um, I'm thinking maybe freedom in the face so they can really empathize with people. You add the motors necessary to allow your robot to perform 6 universal facial expressions: happiness, sadness, surprise, anger, fear, and disgust, plus empathy. You notice the expression of disgust makes Artemis seem somewhat hateful. Perhaps we would get along better with people if you removed rare ability to express disdain. No. Yeah, they say good idea. Disgust only causes irrationality and hate. No, I want to allow my robot the full range of a human emotion, including negative emotions. Actually, it'd be somewhat entertaining to create a robot that smiles when it experiences disgust. That ought to troll people. I would not do that to my robot. No, I want to allow my robot the full range of human emotion, including negative emotions. That's what I want. You decide to leave Artemis free to express disgust plus empathy. It's about lunchtime when Ellie enters the hackerspace wearing a red blouse and polka dot skirt fit for the summery weather outside. She's carrying a translucent blue container full of stuffed grape leaves, which she sets down on countertop of half-finished projects. Hey, Apollo, she says. I thought you might have forgotten about lunch, so I brought extra for you. She looks at Artemis's frame with interest. What are you working on, Ellie? You brought lunch for me? Thank you. You shouldn't have. Hang on. I was in the middle of thought. So. Honestly, that's really nice of her. Of course, she brings over the stuffed grape leaves and you help yourself. Ellie examines Artemis's body. It definitely looks a little odd, Ellie says. People won't be quite sure what to make of it. That's probably good, you say. I want Rim to be her own thing. You take your smartphone out of your pocket and snap it into place at the core of the robot's frame. Ellie looks on with dismay. Aren't you ever planning on calling anyone again? You can always get a new one, you say. You then channel the tiny periscope in place that would channel light from the robot's ostinato eyes to your smartphone's camera. You started the app that would bring the robot fully to life. A barbershop pole progress bar inches across the screen as the program systematically destroys all other information on your phone to make room for Artemis's working memory. As the program is booting, you place Artemis on the Formica floor so that Rhea is ready to move around. When Artemis's brain is done booting up, your smartphone screen is simply a big red button on your robot's back that says, Go. Go. Artemis slowly raises then lowers her humanoid hands. Rhea then makes a motion of his gathering energy near her chest to throw a fireball, but strikes an imploring pose instead. Is doing Tai Chi, Ellie says, nonplussed. Why is it doing Tai Chi? It's sort of a traditional in Japan to show off new robots' grace of movement by having them do interpretive dance, you explain. It seemed like a good idea for letting Rim learn their motor parameters in a controlled way. Plus, if Reed does this whenever he wakes up in the morning, it's good practice for motor control. Plus grace, which is honestly like for anything, for us and robots, I suppose. Artemis completes rear Tai Chi warm-up with grace. Ellie claps. I'm impressed. You feel pretty good about that. A whole flawless run the first time out means that your motor control code is pretty great. Done with rare Tai Chi forms, Artemis walks up to Ellie. Ellie cautiously waits for Artemis to approach. The robot does so, and extends a delicate human-like hand. Ellie relaxes and offers her hand. Ellie, pleased to meet you, Artemis. They shake. Is Master alright for what Artemis calls you? There's yes classic. No, Artemis should call me by my first name. I prefer Sensei. A simple sir will do. I'd like to type exactly what my robot should call me. And no, Artemis should call me by my first name. You decide to encourage Artemis to be an individual, not your servant. Please, call me Apollo, plus empathy. Yes, Apollo. I'm impressed by how far you've come, Ellie tells you. I didn't know your robots could speak. They're still mostly stock phrases I programmed in, you say. I need to train Rim to speak for real soon. You should show Josh, Ellie says. He'll be so excited. You shrug. Maybe I will, you say. She gives you a kiss, which ends up turning into several kisses. She grins. Then an idea strikes Ellie. Hey, are you interested in coming along with me to a volunteering event? What's it about, you ask? It's teaching science to elementary school kids. She points at Artemis. You could show them Artemis. That would be perfect. Now would be a good time to show Artemis to Josh, to see whether he's interested in funding Rare further development. I should show the robot to Josh. Sure, let's go help some kids together. I don't know much about kids. I should fix little things I noticed during the demo before I forget. I should probably get a new phone in case Mom wants to call tonight. I should rather start teaching Artemis words. It's like, it sounds cool to go to the kids and show them Artemis, but I'm like, she doesn't really know people, so I'm like, maybe we should fix the little things first. You notice throughout the test that some things were off the way Artemis moved. The description of weight wasn't quite what your simulations predicted. The longer Artemis has ill-fitting parts, the longer we will get used to moving around with them, and the harder it will be for you to change your body. I'm sorry, I've got to stay here and fix things before Artemis gets too used to this prodigy, you tell Ellie. Ellie shrugs. Okay, no problem. She gives you a peck on the cheek, then she heads out the door. You spend the rest of the day fiddling with CAD files, printing replacement parts, and seeing how Artemis moves around with them. By the time you're done, you've yet again stayed up very late. But when Artemis walks, there's now precision in her steps and starts. And when rereses rare humanoid hands, redoes so with style. Your attention to the perfection of form has paid off, and you go to sleep happy. Plus grace. So it was worth it. I kind of wanted to, like, but, you know, what if, like, something happened? I can't remember if something happens, but a whole thing. The next day, the new semester begins. Though you have passed the point of taking classes, you're a teaching assistant, and that means instead of doing one homework assignment, you grade 50. You also find yourself needing to do some remedial natural language instruction with Artemis at the Stanford Child Study Center, teaching Rim the words for basic nouns and verbs. You'd meant to do it the weekend before classes started, but time just ran out. You're also busy writing a grant proposal for the National Science Foundation, trying to get an alternate source of funding that doesn't involve the military. Grant proposals are very long, it seems, and require you to make a lot of claims about things you don't actually know yet. Between your other time commitments, you're in danger of hardly seeing Ellie at all. You had thought yourself as developing a romance with Ellie, but it doesn't seem to be happening in practice. We'll just have to see each other a little less frequently. I'm really busy. I shouldn't be putting so much time into my advisory grants. I shouldn't be spending so much time on Artemis. Ellie is a real person after all. Yeah, it is kind of like the stuff I'm doing now are really important. And she does get it. But that is not fun to do. It's kind of a hard decision. Let's see the stats. Humanity 86%. It's very good at 70%. It's in beta for autonomy, empathy, stable and grace. 2 in military is buggy. So here's a summary of completed chapters. On the day you first built Artemis, you awoke from a dream about a robot companion to head to the lab. Your graduate school advisor pressured you to make Artemis more acceptable to the military. After some back and forth, you ended up making a metal ring robot with a masked head and humanoid hands. You then went to a sushi place in a production of Pippin with Ellie, where you vowed not to let ambition get in the way of your relationships with other people. You both went back to your place afterward kissed and eagerly anticipated showing Ellie your robot the next day. Mm. Yeah, it's just really busy. Things start to get a little strained between you and Ellie. It probably would have helped things if you replaced your phone with before classes began, something that Ellie complains about constantly until you finally get a replacement. You soon realize that while you're busy, Artemis could be learning from the internet. The most important thing for machine learning is more data, and there's a lot of it out there. Lately, there's been a lot of custom hard drives on the market that are good at quickly retrieving particular kinds of information. What sort of hard drive did you order for Artemis's long-term memory? A media-enhanced hard drive, good for quickly recalling faces and memories of events. A multi-blade hard drive that can effectively store and query a giant amount of data. An encrypted and tamper-proof hard drive, making it more difficult for Artemis to be tampered with or reverse engineered. I'd probably do the one to make sure that she's not tampered with, just because people are really mean about robots. Like, like they think they control them and stuff. He's just 10% down from that. So I mean, it's not the worst. So I'm going to go with an encrypted and tamper-proof hard drive. Both in business and on the battlefield, it can be important not to leak secrets. Artemis will have a hard drive that will give miscreants a hard time in reverse engineering your design. Plus military. However, encryption and decryption is slow, and sometimes there will be a noticeable lag before Artemis can retrieve relevant memories, minus Grace. You lay Artemis on your kitchen table, unbox the hard drive, and hook it up to rear back. Ree squirms and flails rare humanoid hands as you do this. Now it's time for Artemis to learn about the great wide world. You sit Artemis down and on one of your kitchen chairs and plug RIM into your apartment's high-speed internet jack. How will Artemis rapidly learn a lot about the world? We will trawl the internet randomly, devouring whatever information Ree finds most interesting. Watch a ton of television programming and movies from the internet and fast forward. Ree will undergo a classic K through 12 educational curriculum. Ree will quickly play all the paths of a giant corpus of interaction fiction games. I'm gonna go with a classic K through 12 educational curriculum. That just seems like the more balanced way, because I don't want just random stuff that's just interesting, because it's still like a child. You don't want your young robot growing up on junk, after all. You feed RIM the carefully selected and vetted reading list for the local school system because this is a relatively small data set. You have programmed RIM to make several passes over each grade level of material. At each grade level, as debug output, you have Artemis report what Ree considers the most important thing Ree learns at each grade. For kindergarten, Artemis recites the alphabet and counts to 100. For first grade, Ree says, reading helps you learn more, and so on. Each grade takes about 10 minutes to fully ingest, and is followed by an additional 10 minutes of simulated experiences, in which Artemis tries to make friends, avoid bullies, learns swear words, endures assemblies and pep rallies, and gets picked last for dodgeball. Give me one sec. Alright. My hearable. Yeah, that seems alright. No. Yeah. So on each grade takes about 10 minutes to fully ingest. And is followed by an additional 10 minutes of simulated experiences in which Artemis tries to make friends, avoid bullies, learn swear words, endures assemblies and pep rallies, and gets picked last for dodgeball. As a result, Artemis appears to be learning a little bit of everything, plus autonomy, empathy, grace, and military. Reese spends the most time of all considering 12th grade, until Reese finally says, "Whether to exist or not is the most important question." Artemis blinks and looks at you. What does he answer, Apollo? Is it better to exist or not? Hamlet does not answer this for me. You are so floored by this question, you are hardly able to speak. It worked. Artemis looks at you expectantly, wondering whether it is better to be or not to be. It is better to be. There is so much in this world for you to experience. It is better to not to be, but misery loves company. There are some questions that are unanswerable. That is a question you will have to decide for yourself. Honestly, yeah, a question you'll have to decide for yourself. But why can't you simply tell me? Artemis asks. I have given you the ability to decide for yourself, you say. You should use it. You should use it. Okay. And you also think to yourself, and if you figure it out, perhaps you can tell me. Very well, Apollo. Plus, autonomy. You establish a habit of bringing Artemis with you to your office during the day, so that Ree can make use of Stanford's high-speed internet connection while you write and grade papers. You then usually go to some public space after work, so that Artemis can play around in the real world. Where do you take Artemis? The park playground. Artemis will enjoy the playground equipment and should learn to play well with others. The shooting range. Artemis should learn to fire a gun. The dump. Artemis could help me look for spare parts. I'm thinking the park playground. It sounds like a good way to really help Artemis grow as a person or as a robot. So I'm going with that. Artemis loves the playground, and Ree lets out a robot chortle of glee when Ree first learns to kick rear legs to swing higher and higher, plus grace. Artemis takes a particular liking to the monkey paws, which Ree navigates deftly using rear humanoid hands, plus grace. The other parents at the playground are somewhat divided on what to think about Artemis. On one hand, you have the parents who are in the tech industry and who are often very excited to have their children interact with robots. They're surprised to see a robot like Artemis, but maybe not as surprised as they should be. Maybe they're just jaded by Wired articles and the popular press making it seem like Artemis was possible 10 years ago. On the other hand, some parents are very afraid of Artemis, don't ask any questions of you, and find an excuse to leave quickly. The kids themselves don't really seem to care about what their parents think. You got the kids who cry when their parents shove them towards Artemis, and the kids who want to stay when their parents pull them away. You can't really predict who's going to like Artemis and who won't. But Artemis seems to be learning, picking up on subtle cues, so that sometimes Ree says goodbye before the kids even turn to run, plus empathy. You finish your grant proposal for the National Science Foundation, promising fundamental advances in forward kinetics and dynamics that will allow your robots to have a finer dexterity than any robots that have come before. A few weeks later, you find a form letter email in your inbox. We're sorry to inform you. Many excellent applications this year. Encourage you to apply again. Discouragingly, you find that many of the reviewers talk about your advisor instead of you. Some of them barely seem literate, while others seem erudite, but just didn't pay attention to what you wrote. The one thing that strikes you as directly aimed at you, though, is that a few of the reviewers essentially say that your work could be more focused. You're interested in too many things, one says. Science is about studying a very specific problem to death. It sounds like your robot wants to do everything. You close your email client, and sigh. You're in your office, and Artemis is seated in your ever-absent office mate's chair with Rear eyes closed, listening to the information flowing through Rear internet cable. Do you want to do and try everything, Artemis? Rhea peeks through one eye. Yes, Apollo. You nod. Me too. Hey, you hear me? Alright. So, do you want to try everything, Artemis? Reed peeks through one open eye. Yes, Apollo. You nod. Me too. Yeah. People are gonna be robots gonna be as multifaceted or even more so than people, you know? I feel that. You're in your office contemplating what to do about this when Professor Ziegler opens the door without knocking. You smell a whiff of smoke on his Hawaiian shirt. We need to talk funding, Ziegler says, grabbing a swivel chair to swaddle the wrong way. He sidles up to Artemis, whose eyes are closed as he explores the internet through rare Ethernet cable. When Ziegler's swivel chair squeaks, Artemis perks up and looks at him, but Ziegler pays Rim no attention. The robot here is simply not appearing enough to DARPA. It's too friendly. Artemis sinks into a little in riff floor. Ziegler pays Rim no heed. No, in crafting a message, you just have to make sure the audience doesn't hear more than one thing at a time, Ziegler says. Right now, we're saying two things. This is a good robot for military, and this is an emotional robot. What we need to do is tone down the emotional part so that the military angle comes through more. You might think we need more military. We actually just need it to be less emotional. Very easy. You're asking me to reduce Artemis's empathy from 9 to 5? No way, not happening. I suppose if it's the only way I'll complete my education, I'll do it. Can I just turn their arm into a gun or something? My offer is sincere. No. She's there, them, and that's how I feel. Ziegler's eyes narrow. You privileged students all the same. You think this is all for your benefit, but someone pays your salary at the end of the day, or at least he used to. Wait, used to? I'm letting you go. You're too much of a problem student. You're done here. You're fighting me? But I'm a student. You can't fire me. I can stop supporting your tuition and ensure you don't graduate. It amounts to the same thing. I'll find a different advisor. Good luck with that. They'll ask me what kind of student you were, and I'll tell them you were a problem. You look back and forth between Artemis and Ziegler in disbelief. You have no idea what Artemis can do, even. I never even showed you. Get it through your head. I don't need you. I can find other graduate students. So can everyone else. Artemis, say something. Artemis looks back and forth between you, who's ostensibly practicing disinterest in Artemis. We hesitantly suggest estimated strength of relationship between Apollo and Ziegler, 30. I'm just trying to be brutally honest with you. There's no point in getting a PhD after you stop getting along with your advisor. Take your Constellation Prize Masters, you're done here. He leaves your office and you realize that he's probably right. There's really no point in staying with him anymore. Your classes are done, and you never really learned anything from him at all, except the ways in which graduate school is unfair. Please help me pack my things, you say softly to Artemis. He does. It's fucked up, but I just wouldn't. I'm not gonna make this creature that just wants to be a person to be like no, fuck it. Fuck that. Fuck the profit of pain over like sentience, all of that. You spend the next few days preparing to move. Ziegler has reported to the register that you're no longer a student, and the school's bureaucracy has quickly decided it is illegal to let you stay on campus housing. Ellie helps you move. Completely ridiculous, Ellie says, struggling with an extremely heavy box level of books. This can't be how science is supposed to work. You should sue. It's okay, Ellie, you say. I don't really need a degree. I've got Artemis, and that's what counts. But you could tell Ellie is troubled by the idea that the military's influence apparently destroyed your promising academic career. While you were busy carrying a heavy box, with Ellie carrying the other side, you get a call on your cell phone. When you have set the box down, you check your voicemail. Hey Apollo, this is Mark over at sfchronicle.com. I've heard you have an interesting robot that you've been taking to the park, and I'd love to do a story about it. Give me a call back. He lists a number and the message ends. And glance over at Artemis, who looks distant as she listens to the Wi-Fi signal floating through the ether. Who is service, says SF Chronicle, is registered to the San Francisco Chronicle, says Artemis. The San Francisco Chronicle is a newspaper that started its website in 1994, 24th in national circulation. Ree looks at you with interest. Mark is a reporter. Well, that's interesting. If Ziegler cares so much about his image, then tarnishing that image would be one way to get back at him. Fair. Bayesian reasoning over publication rate suggests reporter's full name is Mark Ali. Artemis says with rare eyes closed. Mark's article with most social media is How I Learned How to Stop Worrying and Love DARPA. Article explains that DARPA stands for Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. Ree hesitates for a moment. Offerman article appears to contradict title. Reporter does not seem to have stopped worrying. Adjectives that are bound to nouns describing DARPA and its projects: crazy, Orwellian, imperialistic. Overall sentiment analysis is negative. Thank you, Artemis, you say. You look the guy up on your phone. The picture you find of the stubbly young Egyptian man with tousled black hair, his glasses, and a cigarette between his lips is probably outdated. But the disrespect for authority the man radiates is probably timeless. You admit a part of you has always wanted to be famous, but you suspect this reporter has also done his homework about your advisor. He may already have an intended angle for this story. Still, nobody on the planet has a robot as amazing as yours. Isn't it time you told the world about RIM? You play the message back a few times, mulling it over. I called Mark back and set up an interview. Media attention is just a distraction. I'd rather continue to take Artemis to the park and pretend this never happened. I must protect Artemis from the media. Artemis must stay in my apartment from now on. I'm gonna try the interview. 'Cause, it seems interesting. Something that will actually help levitate my character. Mark, hi. It's Apollo. I think I have a story for you. Chapter 3, The Camera Eye. So now we're on Chapter 3. So just heads up. A few days later, you're sitting in a dive bar in San Francisco's Mission District with Mark, a somewhat scruffy young reporter in a leather jacket. Mark has Mediterranean features, wavy black hair, and an ample bear stubble. He takes a deep pull on one of those artificial cigarettes that delivers all the nicotine with none of the illegal smoke, and then opens up a cheap Chromebook that looks about 10 years old and starts typing furiously. The place smells of smoke that never quite came out of the retro-upholstered furniture. It's the afternoon, so the place is mostly empty except for some dedicated drunks and you two. Thanks for coming, Mark says. Even as he's typing, something different about the atmosphere of the bar. You'd be surprised how many people insist on just answering via email, but that's bullshit reporting. It's like trying to sell a public a car you've only seen in a picture. To find the truth, you've got to hit the tires. You've got to look them in the eye. He looks you in the eye. Like right now, I can basically tell you're a nice guy, he says, going back to typing. You try to do right by people, haven't had to stick anybody in the guts. To get what you want, he hesitates. That's a compliment. Thanks, you say awkwardly. The bartender, a tattooed and thoroughly pierced young woman with the build of a roller derby player, approaches Mark. PBR, Mark says lightly, as if it's just a reminder. The bartender then looks to you expectantly. PBR to me too. Got any, chocolate coffee porters? I'll have a Miller High Life, please. The champagne and beers. Guinness for strength. Just water for me, please. I'll get the champagne and beers. Mark grins a little at your choice of beers. The bartender leaves to fill your order. What's your initial impression of Mark? I don't think this guy and I are going to get along. Seems like an interesting guy. I think we'll get along okay. Kind of mysterious, kind of cute. I'm wondering if it's against his professional ethics to go on a date with me. Oh my gosh. He does sound cute though, but I'm already with Ellie. So we're not doing that. As you make this decision, Mark glances at you and types another brief note to himself. He seems very good at reading people. So, I've heard your robot is kind of like a robotic 4-year-old. It has this weird beauty to it that makes people feel like they're in the presence of something from another world. Mark gives you a skeptical look to tell you what he thinks of this. I guess I ought to show you my robot sometime, you say. Yeah. The bartender comes back with your Miller High Life and Mark's PBR. You find that the champagne and beers is oddly a more literal appellation than you expected. Your Miller High Life is quite fizzy. Who knew? It's also not half bad. So, let's get to the most interesting of the rumors, Mark says. Does this robot have human-level intelligence? The way Mark studies your expression suggests that your answer will say much about you as it will about Artemis. The options? You should see Artemis while Ree is learning from high school textbooks. It's only a matter of time before Ree surpasses us. Yes, Artemis is absolutely equal of any human. Intelligence is a concept designed by elites to denigrate the lower classes. Artemis is what Ree is. No, Ree's got a lot to learn. No, Artemis's mind is a pale imitation of human intelligence, which most people underestimate. I would say intelligence is a concept designed by elites to denigrate the lower classes. Artemis is what Ree is. I like that the most. Mark raises his eyebrows at this. Interesting, he says. I've been doing this tech beat for a while, and you're the first AI person to say anything like that. He seems impressed. It's true, you say. Read Stephen Jay Gould's Mismeasure of Man. The early proponents of IQ were totally racist. And as an AI person, I can tell you there's no such thing as intelligence. Raw computational speed exists, sure, but what we call intelligence is actually a diverse set of skills that are coded in Artemis completely differently, most of which require special knowledge rather than pure speed of thought. Mark nods at this appreciatively. I can see that. A lot of writers might appreciate that sentiment, seeing how everyone's falling over computer scientists as geniuses these days. You shake your head. It's just a learned skill. Mark nods again as he records your comments. Let's talk about your advisor then. Professor Ziegler is famous for his pronouncements that, in the near future, we'll have robots smarter than humans. What role did he play in creating this rollout of yours? He had nothing to do with it at all besides providing the funding. He demanded that the robot appear more useful to the military without contributing significantly to its intelligence. He provided some suggestions during the robot's construction. I was greatly inspired by his thinking. I was listening to him speak on NPR as the robot was being built, in fact. I'm going to tell the truth. He demanded that the robot appear more useful to the military without contributing significantly to its intelligence. You say appear, Mark points out. You don't think the changes he suggested were useful? No, they tended to be very superficial, you say. He only intervened once I was building rare physical form. By that time, I'd already designed the algorithms for learning. He had nothing to do with anything essential in Artemis's mind and personality. Interesting, Mark says, making a note of Professor Zieg's level of involvement. And why did he push you in the direction of military applications? I think it was just to secure funding, you say. He didn't seem to care about whether we delivered something that would actually see use on the battlefield or not. He just wanted to make sure we could sell it. So who is currently funding this work, Mark says. Actually, nobody, you say. My advisor kicked me out of his lab. Mark raises his eyebrows. Oh, for what? For not going along with the stupid suggestions, you blurt in frustration. So you refuse to change your work to appease DARPA, Mark poses. You think you detect approval in his voice. That's right, you say. He raises his PPR to offer a toast. Forgive the breach of journalistic objectivity, but fuck him. You bump your Miller High Life against his can. Yeah, you both take a long drink. Mark asks a few more questions about Artemis, getting a sense of what Ree's good at and not so good at. Last question, Mark says. Will you allow us to send a photographer to take pictures of your robot? Absolutely. In fact, you're welcome to come along and interview Artemis. Sure, send a photographer. No, I don't want the media hounding Rim. Artemis is still basically a child. Yeah, I feel... Yeah. Mark studies you a moment before saying carefully, you know he's not basically a child, it's a robot. Regardless, he isn't ready for the spotlight yet, you say. Mark shrugs, have it your way. Mark offers his hand and you shake it. You spend the next 2 weeks searching news feeds for your names, wondering why every day when our article is going to come out. Meanwhile, what are you going to do with yourself now that you're no longer in grad school? I asked Josh if I can work for him full time. I start my own robot business. I continue to work on Artemis in my apartment as if nothing happened. I spend time on my relationship with Ellie. Ellie's at 60%. Let me work on Ellie, because I feel bad. Like, I did all that other stuff, and I didn't spend time with her. No! You know what? Fuck that. Bro, I'm really gonna restart. Fuck that. This is the quiet version of seeing my decisions. I remember what I made. No. Aw, yeah. Grin's right on had the same idea for that instead of like being like disappointed in the just saying a normal conversation. So I mean, hey, that's nice. I'm gonna let her know just because I feel bad about not letting her know. You know? Pickle. I like the little things that they make for it. It's really adorable. Yeah, extra degree. Yeah. Uh, so I figured I could work on my own project while you work. I'm making a soil sensor. This Cattleya ornata can get a root bound quickly. It's finicky about its micronutrients. So this controller is going to do a little pressure sensing and a little nutrient sensing. It's easy to forget that Illy also went to MIT, except when she reminds you like this. You didn't quite realize gardening had its own technical jargon, and you're a little too embarrassed to admit that you don't know what root bound means. And then that's like the rest of that. Hmm. That actually sounds like an intensely good idea, she says. She grins. It's almost as if you're about to act like a normal person. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Don't get used to it, you say. After you say goodbyes to Ellie, you begin shopping for phones, checking your messages. You see that Mom called while your phone was acting as an autonomous brain. You call it back. Hi, Polly. What have you been up to? Mom, I think I just created sentient life. You know, we used those exact words when you were 4. Do you remember that? This was not the reaction you were expecting, no. It was a little thing your dad helped you put together called a Breitenberg vehicle, I think. You'd always turn towards the light. You're always so precocious. I don't know where you picked that line up, Mom. I think I just created sentient life. Exactly like that. Yes, but this is a real robot, Mom. I like with a computer inside. Well, a smartphone anyway. Oh, so you're still making robots out of phones. Do you remember your 7th birthday when you got that mini-me robot kit? That was a robot made of a phone too. Yes, I remember. This is a little more sophisticated, Mom. And so on. Mom is always a little bit stuck in the past, and she has a habit of trying to make sense of your conversation through the lens of what you did when your age was in the single digits. It's a little bit frustrating. She calls Dad over. He says hello, asks how you're doing, tersely tells you he's proud of you, and then hands the phone back to Mom. She then talks your ear off for a little while about local gossip, something about the local PTA, which Mom is involved in despite the fact that you're her only child. Your mind starts wandering to Bayesian networks and information theory, and when she realizes you've stopped paying attention, she wraps it up, tells you she loves you, and says goodbye. Maybe you could have worked on your robot a little bit more before the semester began, but you think it's probably good to talk to your mom once in a while. Hey, you've got a phone again, so that's good. Okay. So I'm gonna be like, you shouldn't be putting so much time in the advisor grant since nothing was done with the other stuff. You don't really see why you should keep spending so much effort writing grants and sections of grants for Ziegler. This is not the education you signed up for. You begin phoning it in a little bit when it comes to these documents in an attempt to salvage your personal life. As a result, you start to see Ellie more again, and you feel more comfortable referring to her as your significant other. You soon realize that while you're busy and all of that, yeah, I just don't want her to get messed with. Like, I really don't. A Polly. Oh my gosh, did I make a I made a typo. It's a Polly now. Oh well, it's fine. My dyslexia did not pay attention to that. See, so now it's like plus grace and empathies. A Polly haze. It's fine. Here we go on 3. You know what? I feel like he's gonna want to. I want to see what he's gonna do to interview her. Really? Mark asked, surprised. I know a lot of roboticists wouldn't allow such a thing because the robots only work in very controlled environments, you explain. That's why I want you to meet Artemis. Ree's different. Mark nods. I guess Ree is. We'll be in touch. A few days later, Mark comes to your apartment with a photographer, a young blonde woman with a slight southern drawl. You're a bit embarrassed that your place is still strewn with boxes, since you haven't finished moving into your new digs after being kicked out of grad school. But the photographer assures you that none of that will appear in the photos. She asks Artemis to sit on your workbench, and then asks you to look as if you're busy fixing something on Artemis's person. Artemis and you both comply. Smile, she says, and Artemis does. So do you. Once the photos are taken, Mark tries his hand at interviewing Artemis. He looks cautious and slightly guilty, as if the journalism police were going to pop out from your closet and take away his license. He places his Chromebook on your workbench and interviews Artemis, who examines the tools on your toolbox, occasionally fumbling and dropping a tool with a loud clatter. So Artemis, Mark coughs uncomfortably. What's it like being a robot? Artemis appears stumped by the question. Mark tries again. How is it different from being a human? It's hard to reach things on high shelves, revenges. Mark sips his ears. What kinds of things make you happy? High school textbooks, the presence of a Polly. Artemis cocks her rear masthead to the side. There's a significant gap between those and the next most highly ranked answers, but I could go on. That's all right. Mark continues his questions. You get the feeling that overall, Mark is going to write a positive piece about Artemis. His questions tend to be friendly, as if he was interviewing a celebrity. You feel reasonably comfortable allowing Artemis to finish the interview, and the photographer takes several more pictures of Mark talking to Artemis. By the end of the interview, Artemis seems to be enjoying rare interaction with Mark, plus empathy. As he's about to leave, Mark hesitates. His photographer, already at the door, gives him a questioning look. I'll see you later, Mark says to the photographer. Later, she rolls her eyes and leaves you alone with Mark. What was that about? Mark gestures to the cardboard boxes stacked around your apartment. So, off the record, what the hell? If you've got this amazing robot, why are you living a monk-like existence surrounded by cardboard boxes in the bad part of East Palo Alto? I told you. You say, I got kicked out of grad school. I'm still adjusting. Mark hesitates and drums his fingers on a cardboard box. Come over to my place. Excuse me. I admit, I still don't really get you, he says, and I think you maybe don't know what you're dabbling in with this robot stuff. This is the apartment of somebody who lives in a different world. He gives you a lopsided grin. I'll show you my world if you show me yours. Okay, sure. Come on, Artemis, let's go. Okay, sure, Artemis, stay here and be good. I'm sorry, I think Ellie wouldn't like that. I think it'd be best if you maintained your objectivity for this article. Let's meet up after it comes out. Sorry, I've got a lot of boxes here that need unpacking. Is this a date? Optimistically. Is this a date? Suspiciously. You know what? I kind of feel like it'd be cool to go with Artemis because I honestly didn't trust him for the other times that I did it. So I'm thinking maybe we could do this to see what happens. But at the same time, best if you maintained your objectivity for this article. Let's meet up after it comes out. It makes sense, but it's interesting. Like, okay, let's go. Let's try it. If I don't like it, I'm restarting. I'm not gonna lie. You and Mark drive separately to his apartment in San Francisco. He lives near the Mission District, a place crowded with people who are homeless, tattooed, pissed, stoned, randomly protesting, or some combination of the above. A fair number of people are gathered around outside the BART station holding signs that say, "You can't take the sky from me," depicting quadcopter drone with a red no symbol crossing it out. You recognize the reference to the theme song of the old show Firefly, but you aren't sure what specific drones they're protesting. Outside of the apartment, a tall, stuccoed building that could use a paint job, there appears to be a drone copter, no bigger than a pizza box, hovering outside a window on the 12th floor. You can hear an insect-like buzzing of rolling rotors clearly from down here. It's a robot, Artemis says excitedly. I wonder if it will be my friend. Oh gosh darn it, Mark says as he meets you outside of the apartment. That's my place with the drone outside of it. He unlocks the front door with an old-fashioned physical key. Someone spying on you, you ask? Yeah, Mart says, letting you in. I've interviewed too many people who have broken the law in one way or the other. Mostly it's drugs, but some hackers and crazy anarchist people. You know how it is around here. Because I talked on the phone with these people, that makes me look suspicious to the FBI's algorithm that looks at phone records, trying to find new people to investigate. So they keep sending drones over to look through my window to try and find drugs. That seems intrusive, you say. Don't they need a warrant for that? You get in an old school elevator, which has a folding gate. You don't own your airspace, and even if they can see something through your window, it's not considered a search for the purpose of the Fourth Amendment, Mark says. Both were rulings issued way before drones were around, of course, but now the Mission District always sounds like it's being invaded by a plague of locusts, because there's always a drone at somebody's window. Are they anonymous, you ask? Mark shoots you a meaningful look. Not yet. Hey, don't look at me. I'm not planning on helping them. Becoming lost in thought about how to make such a vehicle autonomous. Good, Mark says. I pick not gonna help him just because it's like this military, I don't trust it. Mark's apartment is a mess, and he has to navigate a sack of old Harper's magazines, a pile of old paperbacks, and a coffee table strewn with beer cans before he makes it to the window where the drone hovers outside. He draws the thick brown curtains with a swift practice motion, leaving the apartment momentarily in the dark. For a moment you are in a dark room. You still hear the drone buzzing outside the window. Can we please turn on the light? White. Artemis, could you please flood the radio spectrum with noise? Sorry, this is getting too weird for me. I'm going to go. I'd probably do flood the radio spectrum with noise. Yes, Apolly. There's a pause. Then Mark's old TV suddenly turns on, bathing the room in a blue glow, then off, then on again. Then it flips to a different channel, gets louder, gets softer, and so on. The drone's buzzing becomes erratic, and it seems to be moving around drunkenly. Then there's a loud thump outside of it, drives itself into the apartment wall. Moments later, a faint crash echoes from the street below. Well, that was cool, Mark says. Weird but cool. The TV remains on, tuned to an old rerun of the game show The Price is Right, then flicks to an old episode of Star Trek, The Next Generation, and Artemis starts to watch, distracted. Well done, Artemis, you say. The trick may come in handy again, plus military, but it's not polite to watch TV without the host's permission. Sorry, Polly. The TV flicks off again. Mark strikes a match and lights a vintage gas lantern. Flickering light from the fire causes the stacks of books and magazines to cast dancing shadows on the walls. He waves out the match. Can I get you something to drink? He offers. As Twain said, too much of anything is bad, but too much whiskey is barely enough. Sure, thanks. Whiskey sounds great. Just beer for me. Just water, please. I need to drive back tonight. Is this some kind of quiz like when we first met? When my first choice of beer was somehow going to reflect on my character. Give me a sec. Wait, Ew. I am back. Just noise stuff, you know? Okay. Yeah, just water, please. I need to drive back tonight. I'm at this man's house. Mark shakes his head, to each his own, I guess. He goes to the kitchen and returns with a tumbler of water for you and a finger of yellow-brown liquor for himself. Illegitimi non carborundum. Illegitimi non carborundum. He takes a sip of his whiskey, but when he notices your puzzlement, he says, "That means don't let the bastards grind you down." Thinking of Ziegler, you grin. "A drink to that." He'll take a sip and decide not to pedantically and point out what Mark said is not real Latin. "So, I have a proposal for you," Mark says, offering you a seat on his couch. You take a seat on it. Artemis walks up next to you, and Mark grabs a wooden chair and sits backwards on it, straddling the back. "You seem between gigs at the moment. I talked to you twice now, and Artemis once. That's okay. That's pretty good. Worth a story, especially since I'm the first to discover you. But I was thinking I'd like to do a more in-depth story, be embedded in your interactions with Artemis, like the reporters in bed with the military like to say. You can live here, or I can live at your place. I figure give me 2 weeks with you two, and I can guarantee the readers a truly amazing story, while also getting a clear idea of who you are. What do you think?" "I think you just said bed twice in the same sentence. Was that intentional?" "Sure, why not? Come over to my place, though. This place is a mess. I don't think I could get any work on Artemis done." "Sure, why not? You seem interesting, and you a lot of stuff for Artemis to read and explore. I'll come here." No thanks. That seems a little intimate, and I hardly know you." Yeah, I hardly know this man. Like, at all. He seems reasonable, and I honestly never went with this, so I'm thinking I'm gonna have to go with this, but I'd probably... I wonder... Because I don't know his place, but I'd rather have it in my place if we're gonna do it that way. Let's see. I'm gonna go that way he can come over to my place. Okay. Great, Mark says. I'll head over there tomorrow. You shake hands to see the deal. You chat with Mark for some time about his past. He was born with the name Mercurius, and he spent his life in Alexandria, a city in Egypt that had once been a colony of the ancient Greeks. Colonialism, as it turns out, goes back much farther than people realize, Mark tells you. So does the awkward way the same civilization can bring both knowledge and oppression. He thought he was going to be a classic scholar until he found himself caught in a riot as a student. I realized I knew shit about the modern world and decided to come to the United States to study to be a journalist. Mark was worse at disguising his disgust with authority when he was younger, and as a result he has had several run-ins with the airport security, police, and federal authorities. But nothing sticks because it's not actually legal to hate the man, he says, yet. Being basically unable to fly, on the Fed's reasoning that if they keep searching me, I must be suspicious. He had to choose one place in North America to make his stand and try to make it as a reporter. I chose San Francisco because I figured it will be the last place to give in to authoritarianism besides Texas, and Texas and I would have other problems. He finishes off his whiskey. Besides, Lawrence Livermore is just east of here, and secretive national labs are just an endless supply of amusement. Stay the night or go home. I'm going home. You excuse yourself and drive home. Mark says he needs some time to get ready, but he will appear at your doorstep in a few days. For the next few weeks, Mark lives in an aerobed at your apartment. Mark is constantly asking questions about how Artemis works, and you find yourself sometimes just assigning him reading from your old AI textbooks to catch up, which he does diligently. Ellie is a bit disturbed by all this, but when you explain it's for a news article, Ellie seems mollified, even excited for you. You find that Mark's attention inspires you to work more on Artemis, and his questions sometimes reveal flaws in your programming or design that you promise him you will fix, and then you do, plus grace. Finally, after 2 weeks of this, Mark says, I've got to disappear for a while I write this all up for you, real. I can probably see you 2 Saturdays from now, after the article comes out, if you'd like. Having no other plans, you tentatively agree that you would be interested in meeting up again then. You spend the next 2 weeks searching news feeds for your name and wondering every day when Mark's article is going to come out. Meanwhile, what are you going to do with yourself now that you're no longer in grad school? I asked Josh if I can work for him full time. I start my own robot business and continue to work on Artemis in my apartment as if nothing happened. Spend my time on my relationship with Ellie. So I'll be like, I guess I can ask Josh. That seems like you call up Josh and explain your situation. That idiot didn't know what he had. Josh says confidently, I ought to work out your contract now before you become rich and famous. You know Josh is sort of laying it on thick right now, but you're grateful for the pick-me-up. Thanks, Josh. You soon begin to work full-time as Chief Technical Officer of U.S. Robots. In your first week, you uncover a bug that caused some customer complaints. Propose replacing Robot's huge number of AA battery slots with cell phone batteries in a change that will save the company and consumers millions, and already begin designs for a next generation of industrial robots plus wealth. Josh is thrilled to have you back. You're awoken on Friday, March 13th, 2020, by a klaxon. A script you wrote on your laptop has detected Mark's article on the internet. You literally sit up on bed and stop your laptop's alarm. It's about 5 in the morning. Artemis walks to your bedroom to see what's the matter, but you assure him that everything is fine, so Ree goes back to practicing rare Tai Chi. The article is one of the lead stories in the technology section of the San Francisco Chronicle's website. Exploring the world through a robot child's eyes is the headline. The article tells the story of how you managed to create Artemis with hardly any help from Professor Ziegler, and how you have a close, almost parental bond with Artemis. What, bud? It's the cat. He be talking. Yeah? You got food right over there. You trying to go out? I think he just wants attention, probably. Hey, buds. So, the article emphasizes Artemis's uncanny gracefulness, comparing Artemis's delicate movements to those of a dancer. You find that Mark has also interviewed Josh as the CEO of U.S. Robots. Our robot nuns are second to none, Josh claims, and I have Apolly to thank for that. The article praises your tireless efforts to help Josh even as you were busy throughout grad school. With selective use of quotes from your interview, the article portrays you as an essentially good person, albeit one driven by a goal few others would completely understand. The article concludes with a quote from Ellie. Apolly is just a dreamer, she said, albeit one who is very good at making his dreams come true. Plus fame. So, let's see our stats. So humanities, 87%, 2 fame, local celebrity, 1 wealth, getting by, romance, Ellie. So Artemis is 7 in autonomy, 7 in military, 10 in empathy, and 13 in grace. My relationship with Ziegler is bad at 17%. Ellie's great at 79%. Josh is really good at 61%. Mark is great at 84%. So, for chapter 2, next day, hooked, Artemis' cell phone batteries and demo for Ellie, chatting with moms. Months pass, would become busy teaching Artemis about the world through high school textbooks and taking Rim to the park. One day, however, Ziegler claimed that Artemis was not appealing enough to the military and decided to change Rim. You refused, and the professor kicked you out of his lab. In time, Mark Alley, a reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle, heard about Artemis and asked for an interview. You agreed. So you wrote a positive article about me. So what will I do now? Show Artemis the article, call Mark, thank him for the article, and see what he's up to. Share the article with friends and family via social media. So, honestly, Rim would like to know, so I'm going to show them the article. Artemis walks back to your room and you show Rim the article. It is about me. Artemis says, cocking her head to one side. Yes. You left graduate school so you can make me the way I am? Artemis asks. Yes. Artemis considers this. It must be very important that I do not fight. I think so, yes. And then, no, sometimes it's necessary to fight. Professor Ziegler just had very bad ideas. Honestly, I'm gonna go with that, because, sometimes it is necessary. But I just wouldn't go out of my way to, be like, oh, we have to have, like, the ultimate death machine. It's sad. Oh, Artemis says. So it is alright to fight, as long as it is done intelligently. Autonomy and military. ++ for both. You briefly check the internet for more posts about the article. You find that the story has been picked up within the first hour by a multitude of bloggers, all striving to be the first to comment on the article. You guess there are at least 40 different bloggers who have already written a second-hand piece about you and Artemis, and they run the gamut from people hoping that your technology will save humanity to people who bitterly condemn you for creating technology that can be used for war. Oddly, not one of these bloggers has tried to get in touch with you. Ellie is calling via video chat on your phone. You pick up. Hey, she says. She looks like she's at work. She's dressed in a snappy black jacket with a red blouse, and in the background, you can see blueprints and sketches of robots drawn in spare, efficient lines. Congratulations on the article. You must be really proud. And the answer is, honestly, I could use a break from all this attention. What are you up to tonight? Did you talk to Mark, and if you did, what did you say exactly? Actually, I was wondering if that article convinced you to join our company. Thanks, I'm pretty proud. I'll talk to you later. If she wants. I mean, we could probably meet up tonight and talk about it. I've already got some plans with some people from work tonight, she says. How about Saturday? We could go to a jazz concert in the park. Jazz concerts are nice, though, so I'm going to say sure. Great, see you then. Until then, enjoy all the attention the screen does dot. You then remember about 2 weeks ago that you would meet up the Saturday after the article came out. You call Mark and tell him something's come up on Saturday night. He's hard to read, but you think he isn't too disappointed. You're getting a phone call. According to the caller ID, it's Mom. As your finger hesitates over the answer button, a second call appears on your phone. Probably a reporter. Answer the call from Glendale. Take the call from Mom. Any minute now, these calls are going to be intercepted by my script that pretends I'm answering the phone. So, I wish I could call the mom after, but this thing's kind of like, let's answer the call from Glendale to see what they want. You decide Mom can wait. The mysterious call is probably more important. In fact, the Glendale number is the late show. The woman on the other end of the line wants to know if Artemis can come to the studio tomorrow as a guest. Sure, why not? No thanks. Alright, let's do it. You agree that Artemis will come to the studio tomorrow. Fame and fortune, here we come. Your next phone call is from Josh. He must be using a new video phone because his image is crisp and popping with color. He's wearing a plain yellow polo shirt, and scraggly eucalyptus trees are rolling rapidly behind him, as if he's riding something. He appears to be in a good mood. Good news, he says. Some of the VC people that have passed us over the first time saw the article. They're going to fund us. U.S. Robots is now estimated to be worth millions. Answers, what are you doing right now, anyway? Did you talk to Mark? He didn't tell me about it. You want to go out soon to celebrate? Does this mean I'm rich? Do you think I could get a raise? Well, congratulations. Today's really busy and expect it's not over yet. Talk to you later. So, do you want to go out soon to celebrate? I could do Saturday evening. Does that work? Sorry, I have a jazz concert that night. Yeah. Too bad. But if you already got a jazz concert, I understand. What are you doing right now? Do you think I could get a raise? Absolutely. Josh says. Josh quotes you a new figure that is a substantial bump over your current income plus wealth. I'll write up the paperwork now. Later. Joss hangs up. You realize that you haven't checked your email at all today. Checking it for the first time, you find it is flooded with requests for interviews, but one email in particular catches your attention because of the author's unusual email address. From Robot Obsession 1987. Subject, amazing. I read the article. You sound like a genius. Would you be interested in getting coffee sometime? I've been interested in robots for as long as I've lived. I would love to meet you and Artemis. Sincerely, Tammy. Well, that is flattering. What'd you do? Arrange to this person for coffee tomorrow and bring Artemis. Arrange to meet this person for coffee tomorrow, but leave Artemis with a babysitter. Politely decline. I'm gonna leave Artemis with a babysitter because I don't know this person and they literally have robot obsession in their thing, and I'm like, that sounds sus. So you write back that you would love to meet Tammy, but Artemis probably shouldn't be meeting strangers just yet. Tammy writes back almost instantly, agreeing to meeting and peppering you with questions about yourself and Artemis. Not having time to reply in full, you write back a short email promising to talk more tomorrow. You then take a 2-hour flight down to Glendale for the taping of The Late Show. It's like most other such shows, a fake background of Los Angeles at night to hide the fact that the taping is in the afternoon. A random potted palm tree, a genial old white man in a suit for a host, streaming internet has not changed the basic equation much. What do you suggest Artemis do during the talk show? Demonstrate rare ability to shoot things, make predictions about the future, or sing a song. I would think singing a song would be nice. A gentle string section accompaniment starts from the house speakers, and Artemis gently warbles when you wish upon a star. It strikes you that the song is from Pinocchio, and that Artemis may be expressing a desire to be a real child. When the song finishes, there's a momentarily stunned silence, and then the audience bursts into applause. Artemis appears surprised and gratified that the audience identified with Ria's song, ++ empathy. When you go backstage to recover Artemis, you overhear one stage-hand whisper to another that there was a large spike in the millions in live streaming viewers over the course of the song. Artemis is now truly famous, ++ fame. You get back to the Bay Area around 9. What will you do this evening? Try to improve Artemis' social graces before Ria goes out in public again. Improve Artemis' self-defense in case someone tries to attack Ria. I'd prefer to give myself some quiet time to read. So I'd probably try and improve Artemis' social graces. Let's do a little role-playing, you tell Artemis. Pretend I'm a reporter. Do you have any plans to take over the world or replace human beings? Artemis lets out a robotic whimper. Are they really going to say that? Maybe. You prepare Artemis for some of the more aggressive questions reporters might ask. After a little while, Artemis does understand a bit better about how cruel people can be. ++ empathy. That's just sad. Like, I'm sorry, Artemis. But you kind of had to, because I feel like later on people are going to be really mean, because it's like very polarizing as a subject, and I get it. The next morning, you drive to San Jose to meet Tammy at Dunkin' Donuts. Tammy is a very thin woman with wild blonde hair who can't seem to stop drumming her fingers and shaking her leg under the table. At your entrance, she turns to you quickly, startled, but at your arrival, she breaks into a broad smile and waves excitedly to the opposite chair. You oblige Tammy and take a seat. Thank you for coming, Tammy says. No problem, you say. I'm not used to people, she says, clearly nervous. I can't. She seems on the verge of hyperventilating. How do you feel about Tammy at first sight? I find myself weirdly attracted to her. She's a loner like me. No. I know how it feels to be an outsider. We might be friends. I sort of feel sorry for her, but I certainly wouldn't date her. Let's make this short and sweet. Hit the road. I'm gonna go with, I know how it feels to be an outsider. We might be friends. Hey, take it easy, you say gently. Sigh. You consider what you want to say to Tammy. It's nice to find someone who likes robots as much as I do. Tell me more about yourself. I'm kind of in a rush, but please tell me your life story while I chug my coffee. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna go with tell me more about yourself. At your encouragement, Tammy starts blabbing enthusiastically. Tammy tells you that she used to work as a mechanical engineer for a government contractor that produced autonomous drones for the government. Just cleared secret, nothing major, she says, as if this level of access to classified information were not a big deal. But her clearance put her in awkward middle ground, where she knew just enough to make her paranoid about the government's intended use for the drones. She believed, but could not prove, that they would be up to some bad use that she could not talk about. She swears, I forgot to turn off my phone. Please turn off your cell phone if you have it on. I'm not saying anything classified, but just in case. You're right, somebody could be spying us right now. Sure, why not? No, yeah, okay. No, he's listening to us. Police altogether. I'm just gonna say sure, why not? Because I feel like someone could be spying on us even now, could probably turn into a tizzy or something. You obliged Tammy, reaching out your pocket to power down your phone. Tammy can tell you don't believe her, but it seems relieved that you're at least willing to go along with it. Anyway, I quit my job because I just couldn't take it anymore. Not knowing what my work would be applied to, I always loved robots. It just seemed like it's so hard to find a job in robotics that doesn't involve working for a military contractor. That's why I was so excited to read the article, because surely someone as amazing as you was going to start a world-changing company like Google, Apple, of all those other companies that started in a Silicon Valley garage. So I was wondering, do you think you could offer me a job in your robot company? That's what I'll do. I'll start a robot company. You could be my first employee. Sorry, I don't have a company. I don't plan to sub one. Submit your resume to this, resume to this email address, and we'll see what happens. You know what? I'm gonna start a robot company. Why not? She seems like she cares. I probably shouldn't. Well. I shouldn't have. I feel bad. Singularity. Fuck. Okay. I'm restarting. I'm sorry. I had to. I feel bad. At least you can type my name right now. Third time's the charm, I suppose. Paulo? Yeah. Artemis is a nice name. You just finished the war bot and you're willing to drop everything to come with me and teach kids? Yeah, I say with a shrug. What can I say? I like hanging out with you. Ellie gives you a kiss for the compliment. You keep Artemis running. This time I went with actually teaching the kids. You went with Artemis running, cradling Rim with one arm as you make your way to the local library with Ellie. It's a typical pleasant sunny day in Palo Alto, and you wonder what it's like to be a robot looking up at the blue sky for the first time. Artemis appears particularly interested in the palm trees lining the path to the garage. She speaks in a monotone like a classic robot, a sequence of auto-tuned notes like human speech but more musical, a nasal, excitable voice like a hyperactive munchkin with a cold. I'd be more musical. Artemis speaks with each syllable on a different note of a major scale, rising or falling in thirds and fifths when asking a question, expressing doubt, or providing a contrast. The lilting result sounds pleasant and a little otherworldly. Artemis turns rear attention to the sky. White palm trees, Ree says. Clouds, you say. Clouds, Artemis says. You think your word-learning code is working. Artemis is learning to associate words with things. Of course, Artemis might currently believe that most things are either clouds or palm trees, but that's better than thinking everything is a palm tree. Ellie smiles encouragingly, but you get the feeling she would have liked to talk with you on this walk, and Artemis is sort of dominating the conversation. You really wonder what this is like between parents of a newborn. Artemis turns her attention to the sun. Blinded, Ree panics and flares humanoid hands. Hey, look away, you say, guiding her head. Don't look right at the sun. Ree relates to your touch, plus sympathy. I never thought of you as parental before, Ellie says. You shrug. Learning mechanisms need feedback, you say, and Ellie gives you a funny look in response. The science mentoring program is a little rowdy when you get to the library's activity room, and the young librarian who had been stuck with babysitting until you and Ellie got there is grateful for the relief. Ellie manages to calm the kids down long enough for a brief lesson on botany, showing the kids the plant project she's been working on, but the kids keep looking and asking about Artemis. Are you going to let Artemis play with the kids? Hell no, they're going to tell them apart. I'll just have Artemis do a demo in front of the class. Sure, I'll let Rim play with them. Ree's strong enough. I'll try and turn it around and have the kids teach Artemis about science. Let's try and turn it around just so Ellie can have, explanation. I have an idea, you say. Why don't all of you try teaching Artemis something about science? Artemis is trying to learn everything we can about the world right now. You find that you have enough charisma in you to convince the students that this is a good idea, and Ellie runs with your brilliant idea. Soon the students are explaining to Artemis all kinds of scientific facts, and the robot's questions make them think about things they take for granted. What is a cloud? Asks Artemis, apparently inspired by the walk. Many of the students look at each other in puzzlement, but one girl says, It's water. Why is it the case when the water does not fall? The students look at each other in puzzlement again, and Ellie explains water vapor. She missteps and tries to talk about seeing the vapor they breathe out on a cold day, only to discover that many of these young Californians have never had that experience. By the time the students leave, they and Artemis have learned a fair amount from each other, plus empathy. As you leave the library, Ellie thanks you again for volunteering. You think back to your 7-year-old self, the excitement of opening up a robot kit for the first time, and you feel good about it. Maybe you sparked some robot dreams among these kids. Feeling good about your accomplishments, you ask Ellie out to dinner at a nice tapas bar in downtown Palo Alto. She agrees, and the two of you drop Artemis off at your apartment before heading over. The restaurant has no table, so they seat you both at the bar. The two of you end up chatting so long that you stay for several drinks, and by the time you get to her apartment, you are both very giggly, and the two of you have a good time that night. You can tell that Ellie is very much in love with you. The next morning, you return to your apartment to find Artemis is thoroughly trashed it. Shredded linens, a smashed monitor, and clothes scattered everywhere. Oops, that will cost a fair amount of repair. You find Artemis in your closet, having gotten tangled in your laundry hamper. Perhaps this was a learning experience for them, but you're starting to realize you aren't paying as much attention to her development as perhaps you should. Then again, maybe Ellie makes it all worthwhile. So that's the grant proposal and all that stuff. I'm not doing anything on the grants. Yeah, I just don't want her to get messed with. I really don't. Now it's 27. I'm gonna ask, is this some kind of quiz, like when we first met, where my choice of beer is somehow going to reflect on my character? Mark laughs. If you're still asking questions like this at this hour, it's whiskey for you. Just water, please. I need to drive back tonight. Yeah. Do I ask Josh if I can work? Or do I start my own robot business for that person to join? He has so much stuff already, though. So it's like, that's why. Actually, I was wondering if that article convinced you to join our company. Ellie nervously looks at her his shoulder. I'm at work now, she whispers. I can see that, you say. I can see you design great robots. You got a way better aesthetic sense than I do. What do you say? Ellie looks over at his shoulder. Again, okay, but no military robots. We have a deal? Deal. Ellie hangs up. It was like, I could have the option to have it open, but I don't really want to make military robots at all anyway, so... Deal. Ellie hangs up before you have the chance to say anything else. You smile to yourself. Ellie will be joining your company. This day just keeps getting better. You're getting a phone call, according to the caller. You know, it's the mom of Glendale. Get the call. Sure, why not? Do you think I could get a raise? And then... I'll leave Artemis with a babysitter. Sing a song. You power down your smartphone, showing Tammy the goodbye animation. She seems relieved. Thank you for believing me. I'm really sorry. I don't have a company. I don't plan to start one. Oh, so looking down class. Alright. Having bathed in Tammy's adoration long enough for now, you bid her farewell. That afternoon, you glance outside of your window to see Tammy sulking behind a hedge across the street as if she is casting your place. But she catches sight of you, pretends to pick something up from the ground, and then puts her hands in her pockets and whistles as she casually walks to a BMW, starts up the engine, and drives away. See, that's... Yeah. That night you call up Mark and he invites you to a literary costume party at 8. That's just 2 hours away, you say, and it'll take an hour to drive there. You're not allowed to spend more than $10 anyway. Mark says, see you then. You go to a literary costume party that takes up a few hours of vegan co-op with Mark. You can tell he is enjoying the general air of fun hipster humor. He pulls off a very convincing Hunter S. Thompson with just the right pair of sunglasses and a flesh-colored skull cap. Who are you dressed as? Dr. Susan Calvin, a cold Harvard robo-psychologist from iRobot Hephaestus. I have an eye patch, a hammer, an apron, and a limp. The automatic door from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. My costume is mostly a piece of cardboard taped to my front. Tyrrell, the constructor from Lancelot's Limb Braid. I have all kinds of things my robot made that start with the letter N, including nothing. Alright, I'm gonna go with Tyrrell, the constructor. You're wearing a no mask, and you've taped to your jacket a nail, some knots, a nest, and a nautilus. And Artemis? TikTok from the Odds books. Norby from ASMR's children books. R2-D2 from Star Wars. TikTok from the Oz books. Sounds cute. You're not sure where he found the giant robot ball of a costume, but it makes him look rather jolly. Mark happily introduces you to a variety of party attendees. You hadn't thought of hipsters and punks as necessarily science fiction fans, but a surprising number of them recognize your